What is going on, everybody? Welcome on in to Bleacher Report Live, and today we got a fun show for you. We are going to be building one of the greatest Eagles rosters of all time, taking a look at the franchise's history, plug in some of the best to ever do it into their respected spots, and I'm looking forward to it. It's an exercise that I haven't done in quite some time. Now, full disclosure, there's going to be players from 1930, 1940 that may not hit home the way some of the recent players have. That's just me being honest and me being transparent. But this is my list where I think it suits best for the Eagles franchise. And I'm going to start with the head coach. And remember, just because you won a Super Bowl doesn't necessarily mean you are the greatest head coach in franchise history. And if you can't tell, that means I'm not leaning towards picking Doug Peterson as the best to ever do it here. The answer's pretty simple. The answer's Andy Reid. Without Andy Reid, you don't even have the identity set as the Eagles organization. Without Andy, there's no Doug, there's no Howie, there's no mold, there's no where Jeffrey Lurie is currently as one of the best owners in the league. What helped shape that is Andy Reid and his presence and getting to NFC championship games and building from the trenches and going within the big beefy fellas that put their hand in the dirt and help block. And the philosophies was all based off of Andy Reid and what he did on a day-to-day grind. So there's no doubt about it. My head coach is Andy Reid. My offensive coordinator is Shane Steichen. Could you imagine those two working together every day, X and O strategy, kicking it in the film room, getting the creativity popping, those two minds working together, no doubt. And our defensive coordinator, I just want to run through the coaching staff real quick before we get to the bodies out on the field. As much as I want to be a jerk off and say, yo, I love Jim Schwartz to death, because that was a hill I was ready to die on nonstop, was Jim Schwartz is a machine. Jim Schwartz is great. It's Jim Johnson. It's Jim Johnson. As we get the chat room popping here in Bleacher Report, it is Jim Johnson. But there was a part of me that wanted to just to be a little bit of a problem, go with our guy, Jim Schwartz. Yes, he got torched in the Super Bowl, but let's not forget about everything else he did. He had to work with Jalen Mills, being that outside corner, getting beat up on the double moves. Oh, good stuff. Hey, I'm not forgetting about our special teams guy either. How about we go look down at Baltimore and wonder if John Harbaugh would be a great selection for this coaching staff? Imagine those four guys at the top of the Eagles coaching tree at one particular time. All right, now let's get to the good stuff. All right, now not that wasn't good. That's good. That's where it all starts. Trust me, if I'm going to rip Nick Sirianni for being an absolute, maybe I'll keep my mouth shut. But for not knowing as much as I need him to know, it's important to have that culture set and have the right coaches in place. But let's look at our quarterback. The easiest answer of all time. The best quarterback in Eagles franchise history. Number 5, Donovan McNabb. Everybody give a nice round of applause for McNabb. The answer is Donovan McNabb. Now, the backup quarterback, yes, I am going with the backup quarterback, is Randall. That would be the backup quarterback. But when I started throwing this around, I was getting all sorts of comments. Why not Nicky Foles? Why not Foles? Foles is the one that brought us the championship. Come on. Come on. Donovan McNabb is the greatest quarterback in Eagles franchise history, and that's not going to go away just because of one of the most miraculous miracle journeys that the NFL has ever seen. All right, Nick Foles was going to retire from the game of football. This guy decides to give it another go. Carson Wentz is an MVP. He ends up breaking all sorts of body parts, and he's got ACL problems, MCL problems, back problems, and here's Nick Foles. His first pass, I'll never forget it, his first pass when he got into the action is throwing to his left tackle. He threw the ball to his left tackle, and I'm going, oh my God, this is a nightmare. I get it. He outdueled Tom Brady, and it was super fun. Donovan McNabb, number 5, is our starting quarterback. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Running back. I see the comments saying Brian Westbrook. And if we're in this new era of football, there is a mix. There's a 3-headed monster. There's multiple different backs. There's a change of pace, guys. B. West is second on my list. We can work him in there. All right, let's pretend Deuce is our running backs coach. I didn't throw that into the beginning, but our running backs coach, let's say it's Deuce, right? Deuce, filter these guys in as much as you want. You can put B. West in there. I got no problem with it. Number 1, shady, though. 1,600 yards. My man's got 75 feet of snow underneath of him. He's jumping. He's hitting people with the Heisman. And the best part of it all is the way that he grabs the football, palms it like a basketball. No protection. He's not holding that thing tight like it's his child. He's got it loose running down the sidelines. You think, oh, my God, he's going to fumble it. No, he doesn't. Here's 1,600 yards. Dancing in the backfield. Oh, it's shady, dude. It's shady. The things that I would have loved to do to run that back and have that again. It was an interesting watch. I don't get how he held on to the ball as much as he did, but give me Shady McCoy with a little bit of B. West. The wide receiver list is interesting. Now, T.O., yes. Harold, yes. Deshaun Jackson, yes. There's 3. Mike Quick. Now, that means A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Now, of course, if we're building a 50-plus man roster, you start talking about how many wide receivers you're going to carry and all that, sure. But to make this controversial and debated, I'm throwing in 4 guys, and then who just is on the outside? Now, I do think you can make the case for A.J. Devontae, as he continues to grow, will eventually be in these conversations. But for Harold Carmichael, Mike Quick, T.O., and Deshaun Jackson as a tandem of 4 guys, holy hell. Now, Michael mentions that the 2 best receivers in franchise history are currently on the team. I don't know if I can say that. That is disrespectful to Harold Carmichael. That's disrespectful to T.O.'s greatness. T.O. was one of the best ever. Now, it comes with some controversy, but so does A.J. Brown, to be fair. Not so much Devontae. And look, I don't think it's crazy to think one day we view their time as one of the greatest wide receiver duos that the team has ever seen. And it's unfortunate because for as much praise as I've given Andy Reid, part of the problem that he was never able to fix and really dive deep into was getting McNabb the receivers. Todd Pinkston, come on! You know, living through the years where, and I liked Macklin. And I like Jason Avant. And I like those guys. But it's not this. Go Bird says he loves T.O., but it was only 1 year. Yeah, but it was that impactful. You can't tell the story of T.O. and leave out that 1 year. with Philadelphia. That year with Philly was so massive and so iconic. You know, it needs to be in place. Now, yes, I'm aware that you can hold more receivers on your roster, but I think going with 4 is what creates the interest and the intrigue of debate. Tight ends. Zach Ertz. And because I want to have the best blocking of all time, my tight end number 2, Brent Selleck. No disrespect to Goddard. I expect Kellen Moore to really improve the role of Goddard. And yes, once again, you could have more than 2 tight ends. You could have the 3rd tight end. Yeah, Goddard's going to make it. But I got Ertz to help me get some touchdowns, and probably not any yards after the catch. Okay? He's not going to explode and go for 30 yards after he catches the football. He catches it, gets tackled to the ground, but the amount of receptions, big. The amount of touchdowns you get. The thing is, you're probably not working much 12 personnel with some of the weapons that I'm mentioning here with your wide receiver core. But give me Brent Selleck, baby. I'm all for it. Give me some tough, hard-nosed football. I'm loving it. I'm loving picturing this core actually get to kick the ball off and see what they could do. And the best part of this all is the offensive line that these men get to run with and run behind. Offensive line. Your left tackle, Jason Peters. Now, I actually laugh when I see that his name's still going out. Jason Peters wants to keep playing. Jason Peters taking calls. Jason Peters still staying active. He cracks me up. But Jason Peters in his prime is no joke. Sign him up at left tackle. Now, left guard, I picked this just because of stability. You look through the amount of time he was able to stay upright, and because he got so much going in other areas, by no means do I feel this person is anywhere close to the skill level. And I didn't want to put Trey Thomas and ask him to, I didn't want to move positions as much as maybe we can in the offensive line in theory. But I'm going with Todd Hermans. But he's next to Jason Kelsey, who's next to Brandon Brooks, who's next to Lane Johnson. Think about those 5 men. And then Trey Thomas could be sitting back, waiting in case Jason Peters can't go for a week and needs a few weeks off. You slot my man Trey Thomas in there to shut the door down and help protect Donovan McNabb. So that is essentially forming our offense. Which, before we shift to the defensive side, let's go to our Bleacher Report poll of the show. And I knew this was going to happen, and it's so much disrespect for Donovan. But is McNabb the right quarterback for this team? 62% say yes, but that means 38% of you were saying no. Now, I understand that some may throw out Randall Cunningham as the move over McNabb, and you could... I guess I'd be willing to listen to your thoughts and listen to your takes, but that's the only one. That's the only one. You could talk me into Cunningham, at least sitting down face-to-face, let me hear you out. But there's nobody else other than Randall. But it's not disrespectful to go to 5. People just don't like the personality. Was he a different personality? Yes. Did he handle everything perfectly? No. Was he the biggest reason why they weren't able to win the Super Bowl? No, I don't think so. I think it's too simple to just point your finger and say him. Vince brings up Michael Vick. No, I'm not trying to downplay Michael Vick and what he was as a quarterback. But I do believe when it's all said and done, it truly is disrespecting Donovan. Because BT says Mike Vick, Nick Foles, and Jalen. That's just not true. That's not true. For right guard, I went Brandon Brooks. Brandon Brooks was one of the best guards in all of football, and it was a hell of an acquisition. So I think Brandon Brooks was so elite. So elite. All right, let's look at our safeties here. Could you imagine? I mean, I have goosebumps. No lie. I'm pulling the rock right now. I don't know if any of you watch WWE. But when The Rock comes out, he starts smacking his forearm. He's got the chills. He's got the goosebumps. The hairs are sticking up on his arms. Ready for this? B-Doc and Malcolm Jenkins. Imagine being somebody with their head looking back over the middle, looking for a pass. It gets right. Boom! Boom! Just popped. Malcolm Jenkins, Brandon Cook, Super Bowl type of intensity. And by the way, B-Doc is also out there. And if you want me to even look at corner, right? Now, I don't have them as my starters, but everything we remember about Reggie Bush goes right to a man, Sheldon Brown. And the combination of Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown. Now, I'm going with Eric Allen and Troy Vincent for our corners. But I'm just saying, if you want to think, now we could get some pick sixes, we could get some interceptions, look at Eric Allen, things of that nature. But man, Asante Samuel, this secondary would be out of its mind. Would be out of its mind. But I miss the days and love the days of Lito Shepherd, of Sheldon Brown. I like that someone actually brought up Slay in the chat just because I do think he deserves some love. Darius Slay is one of the league's best corners. And he's been doing it for a long time. And he still has it. He still can play. He gets a lot of hate in this town. More hate than he deserves. Darius Slay's no joke. I would be open to hearing you talk about Darius Slay with some of the greats that have put on an Eagles uniform. Just saying in general over his whole totality of his career. Now, granted, some of that was in Detroit, and we got, I wouldn't say just the back end. We got more than just the back end of Darius Slay. But Darius Slay is serious. And if you want to pair him up with the Asante Samuel, okay. I mean, I won't be mad with you, but I'm going with Eric Allen and Troy Vincent. Linebackers, you got to throw Chuck in there, Seth Joyner, and Trot. Maybe we get Trot Jr. flashing that number pretty soon here. He's a work in progress. He needs some time. He's definitely more of a product than a polished linebacker right now. There's a reason why he got drafted in the round that he got drafted. Well, maybe someday soon we see a little Trot Jr. You know what I'm saying? But if you have Chuck, Trot, Seth Joyner, amazing. In our D-line, Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde, Trent Cole, Fletch, Hugh Douglas. I'm even throwing my guy Hugh in there. Now, the thing is, Corey Simon's another name. If we talked about a crazy rotation, Brandon Graham, okay, BG making one of the best strip sacks of all time, Tom Brady, the celebration. I literally can look, Javon Curse, okay. I literally saw, I can see the image of him. You know when they do that, they do like NFL XM or NFL the sound FX or whatever it is, and they show the slow-mo of Brandon Graham celebrating and going crazy, fist pumping. I could see it in my eyes. I could see it in my eyes. I know what that means. I can visualize it is probably a better way to put it every single second of the day. But imagine some version of rotation with that. Now, I mean, believe it or not, Hassan Reddick, statistically speaking, with the sacks, I mean, I wouldn't mind having him in there. But this is where I get myself into trouble. Not trouble, but how do we look at role players for the Eagles when they were here for a role compared to their full-on prime? Because there was a time where I can't believe I'm using this guy as the example. I can't believe it. It makes no sense. But his numbers aren't even that outstanding. But, I don't know. Maybe this is dumb. Maybe I don't even go there. We had the guy at 33 years old. He had 9 sacks, though, when he was 33 playing here in Philly. But I'll use him as the example. All right. Michael Bennett, for example, when he was with Seattle, 10 sacks, 8.5 sacks, 8.5 sacks, had 9 sacks here. As cool as it would be to have him maybe as a rotational guy on the back end of this list, how do I value that one season at 9 sacks compared to his career out in Seattle? Where do I find that mix? Michael Bennett. Now, the last thing I ever thought this show would be about would be Michael Bennett. But that's just kind of where I'm at here. Jalen Carter, sure. I mean, it's just so new. That's all. One day I can project him to be on the list of the best defensive tackles the Eagles have ever drafted or ever had in the Eagles organization. That I do think is fair. Maybe you could put him on there. I got no problem with that. I think that's okay because you're projecting his dominance to be maybe even more than what Fletch was, and Fletch was one of the greatest ever in an Eagles uniform. But that was a lot of fun, everybody. I really did appreciate it. The back and forths in the chat was super fun to read throughout the show as well. A little bit of disrespect for Donovan, which I expected because nobody in the city seems to give him the love that he deserves for what he did for us. But that pretty much rounds it out. So I can't thank you guys all enough for kicking it with me here on Bleacher Report. It was fun, different, unique, not the same as what I traditionally do just in general on the radio or what I do on Brodes Media or things of that nature. But someone asked about special teams. What? You don't want to go Jake Elliott? Is there another one you have in mind? Although I think Jake Elliott's the move. Is there somebody else you have in mind? Someone who maybe started to rip apart the Dallas Cowboys at the time of the draft? Maybe a little David Akers. Am I really going to break down David Akers' stats? Am I going to do that right now? I won't allow myself to do that. I won't allow myself to do that. You could pick whichever one you want. I hope it's not recency biased making me go this way. But I do think Jake Elliott gets the nod. I do feel that way. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much. Appreciate the love and support, and I'll talk to you guys later on. Enjoy the rest of your day.